Hello, everyone. Welcome to the session. First of all, I want to thank you. You have lots of choices. You've chosen to come to this session. So we'll try our best to make this worth your while for the next 40 minutes. I'm Dilip Berkey, and I have my colleague, Rohit Mehta. We are both product managers in the Salesforce DX product management team, and we're really excited to talk to you about a lot of things associated with unlocked packages and scratch arcs. This is a safe harbor statement. We will be talking to you about future-looking technology, so please make your purchasing decisions based on available technology. With this is something that I'm sure many of you have seen, the Salesforce DX wheel, and this kind of reminds me, before I move ahead, quick show of hands if you are using Salesforce DX in some shape and form. Okay, that's pretty much most of the people. Quick show of hands if you're using scratch arcs and if you have created an unlocked package. Okay, that's a good number. And finally, a quick show of hands if you have one unlocked package installed in production. Okay. I hope this is going to lead to many more hands getting raised by next session. So if you look at Salesforce DX, it's our attempt at reimagining how you do application lifecycle management end-to-end. We did not look at one aspect of application lifecycle management. The question that we almost always ask in many of our internal conversations is, will developers, when they build apps on our platform, feel happier, feel more satisfied, feel they are using more modern tools when they embrace Salesforce DX? So we want Salesforce DX to be an excuse for you to have better development practices, better governance, more productivity, ability to take the products faster to market. So we're looking at this more strategically. Salesforce DX itself is not a product. It's an umbrella term that we use for a host of technologies that we are building and launching to overall improve the productivity of everything. And I want to point out that when we look at how you can build on the platform, there are two ways of doing this, right? Before Salesforce DX came along, you all used chain set-based development, or what we call org-based development, where you orchestrate a set of changes in Sandbox in response to the requirements from your business users, and then you deploy the change, whether we are using chain sets or using metadata deploy, but you consider the org to be the source of truth. Now, package-based development offers an alternative way in which you can do ALM. The reason why we are calling out this slide, although the rest of the session will be about package-based development, is to highlight that we will continue to invest efforts in both modes of development. In fact, it's not uncommon in many conversations that I have with customers that there are certain groups that are doing change set-based development, and there are groups that have adopted package-based development model. So the foundational thing here is this is not an all or none approach. You're not choosing or branching out. You have ability to incrementally adopt all the capabilities that we'll be talking about. So unlocked packages, it went GA in 2019, in winter 19, and it's completely a source-based development mechanism. The source of truth for an unlocked package is what's in your version control system and not what's in your Sandbox org and your production org. It's very easy for you to iterate. I was just in a session talking to a bunch of architects, and the point that I was highlighting in that session is the ability to version what's there in your package is a foundational benefit of packages. When you do change set-based development, if you go to your production org and ask, when was this change introduced, or what does this custom field or this process belong to, it's very difficult to answer. Whereas the package-based model, you can look at your production org and say, okay, we have these 7 packages, and this package contains this set of metadata, and these were the changes that were introduced. You can even say, when you have multiple production orgs, which version of the package a given production org is running. We have made it incredibly easy, based on a lot of really good feedback from the community, to make it very easy for you to bring in metadata from your unpackaged metadata into a package, move metadata across packages, and put them back into the unmanaged state. The same thing applies to CI and CD, right? With packages, you now have an immutable artifact when you build a package version that you can use in your continuous development and continuous integration process. It's not uncommon that most customers that adopt packages have a CI process running that takes the changes from the version control system, creates a package version, create a scratch org, install the package in the scratch org, run tests, get results, and iterate. It becomes much easier for you to iterate and detect issues early on with a package-based development model. We have invested a significant amount of effort for you to declare dependencies declaratively when it comes to your unlocked packages. So dependency management becomes much more explicit and descriptive versus how things were before. And finally, all this leads to the ability for you to organize your metadata in a much better way in your production org. In terms of showcasing that last aspect, before you adopt Salesforce DX, your production org is something like this. You have a set of metadata that's part of AppExchange apps, and many of you may already know AppExchange apps themselves use a type of package called managed packages, but the rest of your metadata is all present in an unpackaged state. And the hope is, as you gradually adopt package-based development model, you'll start identifying a set of metadata that belongs to one logical group, and you'll start constructing DX projects, you'll start constructing your version control system to map this, but you may still continue to do metadata type deployment. And slowly, the expectation is that this will evolve into packages so that over a period of time, a higher percentage of metadata in your production org is in the form of packages, so that now when you want to introduce changes, you know which package you are targeting and what the impact area is, versus what we have today when you are deploying metadata into just to your production org, you don't know what all it can impact. And in all these things, scratch orgs become very important. Again, before Salesforce DX came along, you had two environments, sandboxes or developer edition orgs for your developers to work with. Scratch orgs are ephemeral environments. You can create scratch orgs by executing a single command in the CLI. You can precisely control what kind of features are enabled, what sets of metadata is present in the scratch org. It gives your developers a true development environment for them to make changes, run tests, and do a whole host of things. And we are continuing to invest scratch orgs, and scratch orgs are a foundational technology that you'll use when you do package-based development. So putting all these things together, if you look at how do you do release-based management, you will be primarily using scratch orgs when you do the development. And as you start building and testing, you'll start installing the same unlocked package into your sandbox orgs. And you'll get your business users to validate the package, and when they test it and they say, you know what, I approve this particular version of the package, you can install the same package version into your production org. It brings about a lot of governance because you know, given that a given package version is immutable, if your business group tested a particular package version, you know that the package version can be safely installed in production. We want to spend the next few minutes digging deeper into some of these processes, and Rohit will walk you through some of them.
Cool. Thanks, Dilip. So this makes my, just knowing that so many of you have used scratch orgs makes my job a bit easier on the slide. But let's just reiterate the different steps that are involved in creating a package. Obviously, step one is coding. This is what most of the developers do in this room, right? And when you code a change towards building a package, what are some of the steps that you follow? You create a scratch org. That's step number one. Now, scratch orgs are created empty, and they have no metadata, no data, no packages that you might need to depend on. So the next step you do is you install packages. The third is you push the metadata of your package source. You make some changes, pull those changes down to your local file system, because scratch orgs are not meant to be the source of truth. They're meant to be ephemeral. And then you finally sync these changes back into your repository. What do you do next? You build a package. As part of that, you review the project.json, which serves as the blueprint of your package, review all the dependencies, the source directory that you want to use to create the package, and then you create a package and a package version. Next comes test. You want to test this package that you've just created. You install this within a sandbox, or maybe within another scratch org, run some series of tests, flag anything that fail, and report that back to the developer. And finally, when the development team has signed off, you take the same package and you install it within a full sandbox for UAT. This is where you get it in front of the eyes of your business users so that they can validate some of your workflows, make sure everything is working well. And when it's ready to be checked into production, you promote it to the release state and you install that same package into production, right? A very simple process. Except we've heard a lot of feedback from you that in reality, a lot of these processes are complex and they take a lot of time. And so we've heard from you that it's hard to configure the scratch org definition file, right? Scratch orgs are empty, they're configurable, there's power in that flexibility, but there's also complexity in knowing what features to add, what settings to add in order to build a scratch org. We've also heard that it takes a long time to install dependent packages within a scratch org. What's the point of spending 40 minutes or more in a CI run if most of the time is being spent in creating that scratch org? Finally, the build process is also similar in that it takes a long time to create a new package version. All of this sucks up the developer's productivity and also slows down your deployment pipeline. When it comes to testing, it's hard to debug Apex code in a namespace unlocked package. You're not able to see all the code that's been obfuscated in your debug logs. And then when it comes to release, we made it incredibly hard to compile and to selectively compile some Apex that may be part of your package, but it's legacy that you don't care to compile, and very often that package installation fails. Refactoring and deleting metadata within a package is also incredibly hard today, and we need to do more work to get that experience better for you guys. So enough of all the pain points and challenges. Let's dive into some of the solutions that we've been working on to fix these for you with the help of a demo. All right. Right, so for my first demo, I have a project here in where I am building some package which uses the live agent functionality that comes out of the box with Salesforce. So just to show what this looks like, I have created a project which I scaffolded using the project create command, and I added some chat buttons and some skills that would typically show up for the live agent functionality. I've also created a scratch org using the configuration file that came through the scaffold. So what I'm going to do now is try to deploy that metadata that I've created into that scratch org. It's done that via the source push command. And in a few seconds, we'll see that the source push fails. And it's not surprising because it says, well, it says not available for deploy in this organization. If I go back and see the scratch definition file that was created for this, it doesn't have any features, and it only has one setting enabled in customizing and creating the scratch org. And so that is a problem. That is the reason why the metadata is failing to deploy in that scratch org. Now, we provide some documentation as to what features are available, what settings are available, but it's incredibly hard to navigate those docs and to understand exactly what features enable what. We can do more on the documentation, but how cool would it be if we solved it for you with tooling? And so over the last couple of releases, we've been working on a feature that we call Scratch Org Shape. The Scratch Org Shape is currently in pilot, and some of you may be in that pilot today. The pilot feature is meant to help create a Scratch definition file from any org, most likely the production org for which you're building the packages. To create that shape or the Scratch definition file, there is a command called org shape create. And you simply point to the production org of which you want to create a shape. Again, shape consists of, and of course there's an error, shape consists of metadata, shape consists of features and additions and the settings, everything that you would normally see within your Scratch definition file. It does not include metadata, it does not include data, it does not include any installed packages. This is truly just the Scratch org feature and settings that you would need in order to create the Scratch org. Think about it as everything that's in the Scratch definition file. So I've run this command, and when it ran successfully initially, it did generate a scratch definition file. The scratch definition file looks something like this. It lists out the feature that's needed, live agent, and the setting that's needed as well. These were features and settings that were enabled in my production org, and we automatically captured all of that and created a scratch def for you. For those of you who've used the pilot, we weren't creating the scratch definition file previously, but starting summer 19, we will create that file for you so you can go in and check out all the different features that have been enabled, but you can also tweak it, and you can also check it in with your source. You can also version it and see how it changes over time. So let's create a scratch org using this new scratch definition file that was generated for me with the last command. And then as soon as this finishes, we will try deploying the same source again.
Running any command takes twice as long when you're doing a live demo in front of a lot of people.
And sometimes it doesn't work, but this time it worked. And so as you can see, this new scratch org that I created with the help of Shape, it is now letting me deploy all the source that's in my project directory. So that is org shape command and the org shape feature for you in order to help configure your scratch definition file. The second feature that I'm about to show you is around improving the speed and performance of setting up scratch orgs. As I mentioned, it's sometimes extremely tedious and complex to set up a scratch org with all the dependent packages. For this demo, I have the Financial Services Cloud package that Salesforce sells called FSE as an acronym that I'm trying to extend within a scratch org. Remember, with scratch orgs, they're empty. They don't come with these installed packages, so I need to create the scratch org and then install those packages by myself. Luckily, there are commands in order to let you script all of these operations. So I previously created a scratch org, and all I'm going to do here is I'm going to install the FSE package into the scratch org that I've named dev2. I'll let this run for a little while, and you might notice that this does not take a small amount of time. In fact, we might probably run through this entire session and it will not have completed, probably even the next session and it will not have completed. So we know the pains of how long this takes. So we've been working on a feature to solve this, and this feature is something that we are calling the scratch org snapshot feature. A snapshot feature is meant to create an image of a scratch org that you've previously set up along with all the dependent packages, metadata, and data of your choosing. We expect most of the snapshots to be created with just the static dependencies. You don't want to muddy the source of truth by adding metadata of your package. So just think about it as, in this example, I will have created a snapshot of a scratch org with just the FSC package installed in it. Now, unlike scratch orgs, snapshots don't expire, which means you can use this over longer periods of time. But again, our best practice is always going to be to decrease the amount of time you use a snapshot for, so that you can you don't start adding state to the scratch org that's not part of your version control system. Let's take a look at what snapshots. So let me create a snapshot first of all. I have created a scratch org previously with the FSC package installed. I waited for, I think, an hour last night, let that package get installed, and I'm going to now create a snapshot of that scratch org. So there's this new command, again, part of the pilot. This is a limited pilot for creating snapshots. Org snapshot create. You give it a name, snapshot1 in this example. You can give it some description, so it's easy to remember later on what the snapshot was doing, and point to a scratch org that you want to take a snapshot of. Now this command will take a few minutes. It won't take seconds to complete. However, when it does complete, you will have this image that you've created, which you can use to create other scratch orgs. So in this example, let's see. I have created a snapshot previously. And I have created a new Scratch definition file that relates to this snapshot that I previously created called snapshot1. This is how as simple as your Scratch definition file can get. In this case, you're only using that state that you had previously captured and not trying to build it again by hand. If you do want to add more features and settings, that's also possible by just adding those attributes within the Scratch definition file. And once you have that, all you have to do is create the Scratch org with that snapshot Scratch definition. Again, this will take a few minutes to create the Scratch org, but it will be a significant improvement over creating a Scratch org and then installing all the packages one by one. Now, snapshots are not just used for creating development Scratch orgs. They can also be used for improving the speed at which you create packages. How does that work? So if you've looked at the SFDX project JSON in the past, you will have noticed that there's a section for specifying all the dependencies that your package depends on. So in this case, I have the 2 package IDs pertaining to FSC that I've written down as dependencies. What I can also do here is specify a definition file and then point this to the snapshot Scratch definition file that I just created, and then issue the package version create command. As you know, or as you may not know, package version creation spins up a Scratch org behind the scenes, and that Scratch org and the setup of the Scratch org is why the package version creation takes a long time. So speeding up the creation of that Scratch org behind the scenes with the help of snapshots is what will improve the overall speed and performance of the package creation. So those are 2 features. I'm going to hand it back to Dilip to talk about some other features that he's worked on.
Thanks, Rohit. I'm sorry, give us 10 seconds as we switch the display. Already done that, excellent. So I want to do 2 things in the rest of the session other than Q&A. One is showcase some of the features that we did in summer 19. All the features that I'm going to demo are features that we built directly in response to the feedback that we got from the community. I also want to spend some time after the demo talking to you about the roadmap, what is it that we're trying to build for you. So to get the demo started, I'm opening a Scratch org, and while that is happening, let me issue a command and come back to that to showcase what I wanted to say. So I'm installing a package, and you can see that I'm installing a package in this org. And when I look at the Apex class, so basically what I've done is, one of the challenges that we have heard repeatedly from large customers is that they have Apex in their org that doesn't compile sometimes. This is legacy Apex. And what we did when we built unlocked packages is we felt that the right way for doing things is to fail the installation of a package if you have any Apex compilation issue. So we compile Apex across the org, and we realized based on feedback that that may not be the best way for doing things. So what you see us doing here is we have added a new flag called Apex compile, and you can choose whether you want to compile all Apex in the org or just the Apex in the package. So in this scenario, while the package installation failed the first time around, the second time around it was successful because I chose the package to be the construct within which the Apex has to be compiled. Again, goes on to show something that we built in response to the feedback that we got from the community. Now, when I go back to this org and look at the install packages page, you'll see that this expense manager package that I was trying to install got installed. The second thing that I want to highlight is the pain point that Rohit was talking about. There are many scenarios when you're creating a new version of the package and you're removing the metadata, you may want to remove the metadata permanently from the production org, or you may want to just refactor, that is, move it from one package to another package. And you all have asked us for flexibility in terms of how this can be done. So let me showcase, and I'll explain to you while this upgrade is in progress, but you can see that when you go and look at the package install help, we are continuing to add more and more flags, which means we are making package installation process a lot more flexible. So I showcased the Apex compile flag with ALM package. Similarly, we have a new flag called upgrade type. Now, When you're refactoring, that is when you're just moving metadata from one package to another package, you can choose the deprecate only option so that the metadata is not deleted but deprecated. But in the use case that I'm demoing right now, I don't want the metadata, so I can go ahead and say I want to delete it. And what you'll notice here when I refresh the screen is most of the metadata that was removed from the package gets deleted except custom objects and custom fields because they contain end user data and we want to be careful about it. The third thing that I want to showcase is we got feedback from the community that there are a lot of these enhancements that we are doing on the CLI side. But even though you're doing all the package iteration, the final installation of the package is done by the admin in the production org, and they don't use CLI. So they were like, hey, you need to provide compatibility between the CLI and the UI. And you'll see that in this scenario, I'm showcasing how an admin would go through the whole experience, and there you can see all the things that I demoed via the CLI are available even in the UI so that your admins get the same kinds of capability when they are trying to use the UI installer as opposed to the CLI-based installer. We don't have to wait for this upgrade to go through, but that's one thing I want to show. But again, the one point that I want to highlight here is this upgrade again failed because the same set of validation is being done. So if the admin goes back and says, do compilation at a package level, this upgrade would go through. The final thing that I want to showcase is what we did with respect to how you work with Apex in a namespace unlock package. Before I showcase what we did, if this is an org in which I have installed a namespace unlocked package in Spring 19, and you can see that the Apex classes are not visible. Because the Apex classes are not visible in the installed org, now when you have debug logs, like if an end user runs into an issue and you open up the debug log, it's not very helpful for you to work with it. So we have fixed that. So now if I go and open a Summer 19 org, the same package, namespace unlocked package, has been installed in the org, but the Apex classes are visible because that's the right model for namespace unlocked packages. So you can see that this package has a namespace, and when you go to the same Apex class, while it is hidden there, it's visible. So that will make debugging a lot easier. But I really have to thank the community because you all gave us some valuable feedback that helped us to enhance this. I want to wrap this up really quickly. Scratch-org, shape, and snapshots, both pilots that Rohit spoke about. If you're interested, please contact him. In terms of all features that I demoed, they're all generally available when Summer 19 starts rolling out, so you can take advantage of them. In terms of adopting ALM, so this is something that may not be very relevant because most of you are already using DX, but if there are people in the crowd that have not started with the Salesforce DX and package-based development journey, start with CLI tools, start with VS Code. They are the best ways for you to get started. Externalizing metadata, using version control as your source of truth is something that can be a next logical step. Automating some of your processes. There is a misconception that CLI commands are used only for a subset of things. You can see that increasingly, release after release, we are offering more and more operations that could have been done only via the setup in the form of CLI. So you can construct really complex automation just by using CLI scripts. And all these three things can even be done by customers that are using chain set-based development. And then you can go and adopt packaging. In terms of package development, we had a whole session. The whole concept here is you can try to isolate and identify packages vertically, or you can try and do that horizontally. There are scenarios where you can identify vertical apps and start constructing them as unlocked packages. There are many other compelling scenarios where breaking them apart horizontally might be very helpful. In terms of roadmap, the things that I want to call out is we showcase a lot of stuff for Summer 19, but one thing that you will start seeing as Winter 20 rolls out is the ability to select the version in which you want to select the scratch org. So when Winter 20 is rolling out, you will have a choice to say, spin up a scratch org in Summer 19 or spin up a scratch org in Winter 20. That will give you some flexibility in terms of how you do things. If you use Salesforce Essentials, we'll make it possible for you to create Salesforce Essentials scratch orgs in Winter 20. Code coverage, the amount of code coverage that you have in your Apex, that's part of your unlocked package. We will start providing you options for you to compute the code coverage. And based on the feedback that we get, we want to see whether it makes sense to enforce the code coverage or how we go about doing that. In Spring 20, some things that we want to make it happen is make it easier for you to delete unwanted packages and package versions, and also give you more control over the set of environments where you can install a given unlocked package. With this, I want to open up the floor for Q&A. We have a mic there, so if you have any questions, it would be very helpful if you can come up there and ask us. Thank you. Can you use the mic?
So you gave an example of a use case for Shape that handles a case where your production org has some kind of dependency that you need in your Scratch org in order to assemble a Scratch org. What about the reverse, where the Scratch org might be one edition ahead and generates metadata that makes it not possible to deploy into a sandbox or production environment that might be one edition behind or one version behind?
Are you referring specifically to preview Scratch orgs, or are you referring to just in general Scratch orgs?
In general Scratch orgs.
Yeah, so we are aware that Scratch orgs today are not as empty as they could be. A good example of that is profiles. Profiles are very org-based, right? Like there's one profile in every org, and so there's like one-to-one mapping. And we are working on cleaning up some of the features that come inbuilt within every edition today. So even the Enterprise Edition that you have today contains some profiles that may not possibly be within your Enterprise Edition production org. And so we are working on cleaning that up.
Is there a recommended workaround in the meantime?
The recommended workaround is to clean up the profile after you pull it down to your file system.
On the actual metadata layer in VS Code?
Yes.
Okay.
It is a bit painful, I agree, but that's the workaround.
You showed that Apex classes are visible now after installation. Are they also editable?
They are, obviously, our strong recommendation is for you to not edit Apex in a production org. But yes, it's possible. But yes, it is possible if you have the author Apex enabled in that org. But almost always, we feel it's a very bad idea to edit Apex in the org. Yeah.
And on the next upgrade, the changes are overwritten?
Yes, yes, they do.
Okay. And I get the feeling that the changes between unlocked packages and managed packages are getting smaller. What are the recommendations to still use managed packages or packaging 2.0?
So I think managed packages and unlocked packages are designed for entirely different use cases, right? Managed packages is designed for the use case where a partner wants to build an app and distribute it to multiple customers. Whereas when you look at unlocked packages, there are no manageability rules. For example, when you look at a metadata in a managed package, there are all kinds of rules as to which changes can the subscriber make versus what changes the developer can make. So we don't see a scenario where these two will converge because they're completely two different use cases. There will always be managed packages to meet the needs of an ISV model, and there will always be unlocked packages to meet the use cases of customer model. We have no plans of converging them because they are by design different.
And you showed a roadmap for unlocked packages and Scratch orgs. Is there any roadmap for packaging 2.0?
Yes, we focus this session primarily on customers and unlocked packages. I'm more than happy to talk to you about the second generation packages.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
First, thank you for all the hard work. This is awesome. For when you get a shape and it returns the shape file, what happens if there are settings that are not supported on the settings file that are in that org that the shape contains but the file doesn't?
Yeah, great question. So you will notice, if you're part of the pilot, you will notice a change between Spring 19 and Summer 19, and the primary change is the Scratch definition file that's going to be generated. The file will be generated based on all the known features and settings that we have today. There is a dictionary, so to speak, of features and settings on which that file will be is built. We have several programs internally within Salesforce to drive all feature teams to support that framework. That's a part of the pilot, and the reason why it's taking us so long to bring it to a state that we feel comfortable to call GA is to get those teams to adopt that framework and expose all their settings and their features so that we can have it available in Scratch definition.
Is there documentation about exactly what the difference is between a Scratch org created with an org shape and a Scratch org created with an org snapshot?
So both those features, shape and snapshot, are currently in pilot. And our pilot customers, there may be some overlap between the two in terms of who is part of the pilot, but most of them may not be. And so we don't have one place where we've documented both those features and how they differ in terms of what's copied over, what's not. But in general, shape copies over only whatever is defined within the Scratch definition file. So just the features and settings, versus snapshot copies over everything that you may have in a Scratch org before you created the snapshot. So it includes even custom metadata, it includes data, it includes everything.
What you just said was my question. Thanks.
I'm just wondering, is there a way to get an inventory of the unlocked packages that were created and further where they've been installed?
So you can run a command called force package list and force package version list in your dev hub to get the list of all unlocked packages that you've created. In a given org, you can run a command called force package installed list to get the list of packages that are installed. But the part that you raised where you're like, I'm sitting here, I want to know all the orgs that have installed a particular package, that is on the roadmap. That's not supported, right?
I may have missed this, but do unlocked packages, is the code inside of them immutable? So is it, if it's installed in an org, can the classes and code and everything be seen, or is it visible?
It is visible. That's the point that I was highlighting, that from summer 19, everything will be visible. The point that I want to make sure that everyone gets it is unlocked packages by design have a model where you can actually modify all the metadata, not just the apex, in the installed org. And that may seem a little counterintuitive, like I put it in a package, why do you make it editable? Because the next time around, when you make a package upgrade, it's going to overwrite all the changes. It seems to be a bad idea. But what we have realized in multiple conversations before we build unlocked packages is there are very few customers that will say, it's okay for a piece of metadata to be part of my unlocked package and be completely locked. Every customer, or almost most customers that we spoke to, want the option to make changes directly in production in response to an emergency. So the way unlocked packages works is it expects the development team and the admin team to talk to each other and make sure that, you know what, if you have to make a change in response to an emergency, go do that in production, but make sure the development team gets to know so that they can incorporate those changes. We did have a pilot for locked packages for a really short period of time, which tried locking things. It didn't go well, and that's the reason why we have only unlocked packages.
So what about the case for an ISV that wants to deploy new versions of their software, but they don't want their clients to modify their code? Or
you make a very good point, and that was the thing that I was trying to answer at the previous question, that ISVs will continue to use managed packages.
Okay.
Managed packages and unlocked packages are targeted at very different audience. And if you're an ISV, it will be incredibly hard for you to distribute your capability of an unlocked package. Managed packages are the right way for you.
Okay, thanks for clearing that up.
Thanks.
Also, as a follow-up to that, can you explain what it means exactly that an unlocked package is immutable?
What we mean by that is the package itself. I would say the best example is look at, okay, let me go back and read. So when you create a package version, you're taking a snapshot of the metadata in your package. You're saying, at this point in time, here's the metadata, give me a package version. The package version is immutable. The package itself is constantly evolving. And the point I was trying to highlight is if you install a particular version of a package and get your business users to sign off on it as part of UAT, I know what this is. What is this? Do you know? Yeah, what is that? I don't know.
It's from back there somewhere.
I really appreciate that you're still sitting here. But so I lost my train of thought. What was the question about?
Immutability.
Oh, yeah, immutable. So a package version is immutable in the sense that you can install a particular package version, get it reviewed by your business users, and once it passes UAT, if you're doing change set-based development, it's possible that from the time they've tested to the time you deploy, someone could have made changes. But if you install the same version, we always, because we never look at what you have. Once you create a package version, we always look at what's there in our cloud. So you're guaranteed that you are installing what you tested.
Yeah, sorry for all the questions. I'm very impressed and looking forward to it. But I have two more questions. I remember, like 2 years ago, when unlocked packages were first announced, that there would be some sort of granularity for the developer to decide what would be locked and what would be unlocked in a package. Is that something that's still going on?
That's the thing that I said. We had two kinds of packages, locked packages and unlocked packages.
Okay,
we piloted locked packages. We realized that taking it to GA would require a lot of changes in the platform. So we abandoned that. So the message now is very simple. You're a customer. You're not a Salesforce partner. The only packaging system is unlocked package. You're an ISV partner that wants to build and distribute apps and applications. You use managed packages. So in that sense, the messaging is much cleaner now. Managed or unlocked.
Okay, nothing in between.
Then nothing in between.
All right. And regarding the migration from either unmanaged packaged or managed packages to unlocked packages and locked packages, is that something that is